Assist, a helping hand with your land.
Neil from Essex here. Today we're going to run through the top 5 reasons we see people trade extremely low hour equipment. Every once in a while you look at our used inventory and you notice that machine that's got 5 hours on it. Today we're going to talk through the story of that tractor. Our first and probably most common reason for having something like this happen, when we get this super low hour, basically brand new trade-in, it's because the customer bought the wrong piece of equipment. And for us as sales guys, we try our best never to let this happen, right? These buying processes typically should take a while. There should be quite a bit of interaction with somebody talking through their needs and the different machines that we have in order to fill that. But that does not mean that mistakes are not made. They absolutely are. More often than not, it's when we see people going from a smaller piece of equipment into a larger one because it just wasn't able to perform to their expectations. There are some scenarios where if that's done quickly enough, the first couple weeks, the first couple hours of owning a piece of equipment, then it can be relatively painless. But if you wait 6, 8, 9 months, a year down the road, those transactions can't be rolled back and redone at all anymore, and that piece of equipment has to be treated as used, even though its utilization might be very, very low at that point. So that's probably the #1 reason for seeing those trade-ins, is simply because they didn't suit the person's needs effectively. Our next low-hour trade-in reason is because the person's applications change. It's surprisingly common for somebody to buy a piece of equipment and then find their needs start to expand way beyond what they initially expected. And that's part of the reason why you'll see guys frequently give the advice to buy a little bit larger than what you think you need today. But there are situations that go way beyond that. One of the common ones is where somebody buys a piece of equipment, starts to find a niche in doing paid work with it, and then make that step into a more commercial-oriented piece. Say a machine like this New Holland tractor loader backhoe. When you have a backhoe in the back of a tractor, you'll start to find work for that backhoe and start to notice too the limitations that come in a small tractor backhoe like this, and maybe find yourself wanting to trade that machine in shortly after for a mini excavator or a more industrial-oriented piece of equipment. We don't just trade tractors, we also consign them too. And a lot of the consignments that we end up taking are machines that people are getting rid of now because of some kind of death or illness. Unfortunately, those things happen, right? A lot of guys buy these in their retirement years in order to enjoy being outside and maintaining their properties. And in that phase of life, those things tend to happen. These are some of the better tractors oftentimes to pick up and buy because usually they haven't been abused and run hard. But you do want to make sure that you're talking through any financing considerations. When you buy tractors like this at really low hours, oftentimes they may have been financed and there will be a lien against that machine. You want to be very cautious that that lien is fulfilled. If you buy that machine and the original owner stops making the payments, the financing company does own it and it can be taken and repossessed from you, and getting your funds back out of that again might be really challenging. That's one of the benefits of buying a consignment machine through a location like us, because we're going to go through and check for those liens and make sure that it's paid off and the proceeds returned to the seller before we let that machine go on to a new buyer. You may have heard of the term tractor therapy before. Something I very much can relate with. There is nothing that clears my head nearly as well as getting on a piece of equipment and just going out to work for a while. There's a certain peace in that and enjoyment that comes by seeing yourself get work done. A lot of equipment here is actually sold to people who buy it for fun, frankly. Some guys would choose cars or boats or whatever, but there's a certain subset of people that enjoys tractors and equipment, and I very, very much can relate with that. That kind of customer is also the kind of guy that will tend to upgrade with model years. Just like people will trade cars in and out periodically, there is a subset of customers that will do that with tractors as well, always kind of wanting to keep up with the latest updates and improvements, because their purpose for running that machine is for their own enjoyment, and they enjoy that aspect of it completely different than the very large subset of our customers that are looking at this as their business and their livelihood, right? There's a lot of uses and functions for this equipment. That tractor therapy customer is a lot more apt to trade in those low hour machines. You know, a lot of those guys, myself included, are lucky to put on 50 hours a year, but still may keep up with that trade-in cycle. And those are some trade-ins that you'll absolutely see on our lot on a somewhat regular basis. Somebody shopping for a piece of equipment will sometimes look at these low-hour trade-ins and worry if there's not some kind of mechanical issue behind it that caused it to want to be sold at low hours like this. And I'm here to tell you that by and large, that's usually not the case. It's largely the things that we've covered here today. So I wouldn't have any skepticism when looking at those machines for purchase. But what I would encourage you usually to do is to go through and also price a new equivalent when you need financing. Somebody who's writing a check for something can save a little bit of money by buying these low-hour machines. But if you need financing, you're going to find that the resale value of this equipment is very, very strong. The market demand for it for years has way outstripped the supply, and so the prices tend to be really high. And if you look at going and getting financing at 5 and 6% on that machine, oftentimes that interest cost is going to eat up the money you're saving by buying that low-hour used piece. So cash buyers, these machines can make a lot of sense, but if you're a finance guy, make sure you get a price on a brand new one as well with, say, a 0% financing program, because you might be surprised what that end total washes out to. So that's a little bit of my run through on why we see some of these really low hour trade-ins. If you check our website, messick's.com/used, there's a huge list of everything that we've got there. Generally, we have between 250 to 350 pieces of used equipment in stock at any given time. So if we can help you through the buying process, or if you have parts or service needs for a machine you've already got, give us a call at Messick's. We're available at 800-222-3373 or online at messick's.com. Ready? Neil from Messick's here. Neil from Messick's here. Today we're gonna go, I have to screw up like the first 5 times. That's just how it works. It's a very real thing that a lot of us that own equipment understand. There is nothing to clear your head that can be